Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this news bulletin brought to you live from Dzair studios, and we kick-started with the headlines. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs said Monday in a communique that Algeria deeply regrets the deterioration of the difficult relations between Saudi Arabia and Iran. The Minister of Industry and Mines, Oussama Senouci, announces that the contribution contract with Perja factory will be signed next week. Saudi allies Bahrain and Sudan joined Saudi Arabia in severing diplomatic relations with Iran, and the United Arab Emirates downgrades diplomatic ties. Hello again. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs said Monday in a communique that Algeria follows with deep concern the escalation of tensions between the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the Islamic Republic of Iran, and deeply regrets the deterioration of the difficult relations between the two brotherly countries into an open crisis. The ministry's communique added that Algeria urged the political leadership of the two countries to self-control in order to prevent further deterioration of the situation, which would have serious and harmful consequences on both bilateral and regional levels. The communique concluded Algeria also expressed the sincere hope that the current crisis will be quickly settled and the two brotherly countries will eliminate through dialogue and negotiations in the interest of their people as well as for international peace and security. Bahrain and Sudan joined Saudi Arabia in severing diplomatic relations with Iran on Monday as the worst crisis in decades between the regional rival Sunni and Shiite powers drew worldwide expressions of alarm. The United Arab Emirates, meanwhile, recalled its ambassador from Tehran in a downgrading of diplomatic ties to focus mainly on commercial affairs. As the diplomatic storm winded, Russia offered to mediate, and China was among the nations expressing concerns of implication of the rupture, which was touched off by Saudi Arabia's execution of prominent Shiite cleric and rapidly polarizing a splendid region. In national news, the Minister of Industry and Mines, Oussama Senouci, has announced that the contribution contract with Perja factory will be signed next week. However, the minister revealed that the government has decided to open the capital of National Industrial Vehicles Company, SMVI, in front of the national capital, provided that the contribution of national workers in the mechanical sector would be alongside with the government's contribution of $1 billion as new investment in the company. In other news, all eyes will be shifted towards the state residence Dzair tomorrow, where Minister of State, Principal Private Secretary to the President of the Republic, Mr. Ahmed Ouyahia, will host a press conference dedicated to the draft revision of the Constitution.
According to a communique of the Presidency of the Republic, Minister of State, Principal Private Secretary to President of the Republic, Mr. Ahmed Ouyahia, will host tomorrow Tuesday at State Residence Dzair a news conference devoted to the draft revision of the Constitution. The draft revision of the Constitution, which encompasses substantial revision of the country's Constitution, has been approved by President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelaziz Bouteflika, last Monday during a restricted council. According to the communique released following the restricted council, the bill will be sent in the coming days to the figures, the political parties, and the associations, having been consulted during the preparation phase. Also, the public opinion will be informed about its content through trustworthy media outlets. During the month of January, the draft bill on the revision of the Constitution will be examined by the Council of Ministers before being submitted to the Constitutional Council, which, in accordance with Articles 174 and 176 of the Constitution, will give its opinion on the procedure through which this text will be examined and adopted by the Parliament.
In contrast to what have been said concerning a possible hike in transportation fees prices, the Minister of Transportation Boujamal Talai refuted those claims, saying all state-run transportation companies, including Ituza, Railway Company, Tramway and Metro, will keep the same fees for commuters. Mustafa Azog again.
The unexpected rise in fuel prices starting from the 1st of January 2016 drove the citizens to voice their concern as their pockets are now on the line. And because most of transportation means run on fuel, a rise in fees is inevitable, as rumors spread suggesting that the Ministry of Transport will issue a statement introducing the new fees. But the latter refuted these claims, saying that transportation would not witness any hike in prices despite the Finance Law 2016 has been officially ratified. The Minister of Transport, Mr. Boujamal Talai, added that all state-run transportation companies, including Ituza, Railway Company SNTF, Tramway and Metro, will keep the same fees for commuters. It is worth mentioning that around 10,000 commuters use state-run transportation, and concerning the discounts to students previously introduced by the Ministry of Transport will take effect soon. And concerning private transportation service, the Ministry of Transport will hold a series of meetings with transportation unions to find a formula to improve their conditions and avoid an increase in transportation fees. According to the Minister, Mr. Boujamal Talai, reducing the expenses of private transporters' increased prices will not be exaggerated.
The National Bureau of Statistics and Prospective revealed that Algerian families' annual expenditure on food is 1,875 million dinars, adding that food expenditure has hiked 3 times between 2000 and 2011. Hence, Minaras.
More than 1,800 billion dinars is the yearly estimated value of Algerian spending capacity over food, or what equals 42% of the total consumerism expenses, according to the National Bureau of Statistics. The latter conducted an investigation on spending, consuming, and living conditions of Algerian families that not only doubled but tripled as well. Studies show that yearly food expenses in urban regions have reached 1,281 billion dinars, exceeding that of rural areas. The studies also revealed that cereal products topped the list of expenses, ranked first in families' budgets by 17.5%, followed by fresh vegetables by 13.4%. Red meat by 13.3%, dairy product with 8.4%, white meat 8.3%, fats with 7.1%, while fresh foods with 5.1%. Other expenses represent 7.5% of the overall budget. An individual's yearly expenses, on the other hand, is estimated at more than 51,000 dinars, 52,000 dinars in urban areas, and more than 48,000 dinars in rural areas. The average is susceptible to increase according to one's living conditions. The average food expense for one individual is estimated 80,000 dinars yearly for fortunate people, and much less at 27,000 dinars for less fortunate people. These are statistics that will witness gradual changes this year, particularly with the implementation of 2016 Finance Law, which would inevitably affect Algerian families' budget.
Tagit inhabitants in Saura region have called on tourists who visit the Algerian desert to keep a clean environment after their stay. The citizens of the region say that they suffer pollution and trash caused by visitors every year, especially for New Year's Eve. Hints Minaras again.
Environmental tourism, this kind of tourism where the flora, fauna, and cultural heritage are the primary attractions, with programs that minimize the adverse effects of traditional tourism on the natural environment without littering or vandalizing it. Hellas' reality reflects otherwise, due to the unfortunate, uncivilized behavior of some tourists.
We ask these tourists for one thing only: don't litter and pollute the environment. Some throw away empty bottles, others leave the fire on. Our gardens caught fire. Don't get me wrong, they're most welcome here. Just preserve the environment. We wholeheartedly welcome our guests, either they be from the four corners of the country or foreigners. We just ask them to not be polluting and preserve the sand as well as castles.
Even the ancient castle of Tarit, it too wasn't spared the vandalism.
The problem is, the castle's walls are vandalized. Many tourists ride on walls and throw bottles. I'm hoping people from now on will preserve our patrimonial heritage.
Environmental tourism is no tourism without the awareness and responsibility that all individuals should share. We have a beautiful country and we must preserve its heritage and always keep it clean. Talking about continuous development is more crucial than ever, which intensifies environmental and touristic resources as an economic substitute, ruled by consciousness and the common sense of responsibility.
In international news, Republican presidential frontrunner Donald Trump's recent call to ban Muslims from entering the United States has urged American Muslims to remind the candidate that they too will vote in the elections. Though many Americans ask after each terror attack why American Muslims are not condemning terrorists who kill innocent people, the response comes from a mosque near Washington, D.C. Karim Fazakri reports.
We're a part of this community in America. We are a part of the fabric from the early days of American history.
The United States is home for about 7 million Muslims, and even on a weekday, hundreds of them come to pray at this mosque in Virginia, a short drive from the nation's capital. On Fridays, some 2,000 believers gather for community prayer, among them recent immigrants and first, second, and third generation Americans. For many of them, a series of recent terror attacks organized or inspired by the so-called Islamic State have made being a Muslim a challenge to their religion and their efforts to integrate into American society after the attacks of September 11, 2001. Many Muslims who were born, grew up, and were educated in the United States feel the duty to fight the spread of radical ideas going under the guise of Islam. Members of the Islamic Center of Northern Virginia say they believe it's necessary to reach out to lonely and isolated people who are easily radicalized and become homegrown terrorists.
Being inclusive, having inclusive communities that bring the youth in and, having positive messages and making sure they have jobs and they have a role in the society versus having them live separately or isolationists or, being alone.
I do believe we need more voices from the Muslim community to show the solidarity and support for our religion that has been hijacked by a very wrong group of people. They do not represent Islam. They have nothing to do with Islam.
There are a certain group of people who are trying to hijack the religion for their own perverted purpose, and so our role is to make sure that the community in general and the nation in general knows about this.
Polls and studies over the past few years show that Muslims have been crucial in helping law enforcement to find terrorist suspects in the United States. And a Pew survey found that roughly half of U.S. Muslims say their religious leaders are not speaking out enough against Islamic extremism.
The Muslim leaders have been quiet for a long time, and we feel that this is the time that we need to stand up and try to bring back our religion from the people who have hijacked, as it resonates more and more that we fail to do our duty.
Islamic Center's leader says that all mosques' prayers and services are webcast live and can be found on the center's website in an effort to educate people about Islam.
Now we move far to the Amazon forest and precisely to the breathtaking Colombian Amazon region, which unfortunately is highly threatened due to man's greed. The growth of illegal gold mining in the last 5 years has increased the pace of deforestation and eliminated more than 70 hectares of the Amazon forest. Karim Fazakri again.
White sand dunes, called a beach, but no one's destination here in the heart of the Colombian Amazon region to get a tan or a sunbathe. In fact, it's one of the many illegal mines in the country and a major source of income for militias such as the FARC, which now prefers metal smuggling to drug trafficking. They believe in making more profits because to get 10% of the proceeds of illegal mining is more profitable and far much easier from selling cocaine. More than 50% of gold mines in Colombia are illegal. These mines threaten the security of the region in a country split by internal conflicts for more than 50 years. These mines also pose a threat to the environment. The excessive use of mercury to clean gold contaminates water sources. The growth of these indiscriminate mining in 5 years has increased the pace of deforestation. In 2014, more than 70 hectares of the Amazon forests were eliminated. This area suffers from heavy rains that accelerate soil erosion, losing the necessary organic material which are being removed by the miners to facilitate access to gold is ruining the ecosystem. These authorities track illegal mining to eliminate them, but controlling this area represents a real challenge. In this area, at the borders with Brazil, population density is less and less, with only 1 person per square kilometer, and the state is almost absent here. Most of the miners are from the indigenous people who are either employed by force or they do not have another option for survival. In spite of the very harsh working conditions, workers get the equivalent of €500 on a monthly income, which is much higher than the income of fishing. The justice was able to eliminate the activities of a mine and shut it down, but when the miners realized that the authorities disappeared, they returned to the same site. Only this last year, the Colombian authorities conducted 2 major operations in the fight against illegal mining in the region. But having full control of this vast and rugged area is almost an impossible task.
The end of this news bulletin. Let's have a look at today's top stories. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs said Monday in a communiqué that Algeria deeply regrets the deterioration of the difficult relations between Saudi Arabia and Iran. The Minister of Industry and Mines, Abdeslam Bouchouareb, announces that the contribution contract with Perger factory will be signed next week. Saudi allies Bahrain and Sudan joined Saudi Arabia in severing diplomatic relations with Iran, and United Arab Emirates downgrades diplomatic ties. The end of today's news bulletin. Thanks for watching, ladies and gentlemen, and goodbye.